Thank you, Bob. And I'd like to acknowledge the support of Bob as the chairman of M&A Resource Publishing. He was the one who brought Patrick and Keisha from into the Philippines. And before that, I'd also acknowledge the presence of his wife, John. John, can you please, just say hello? And Odell, his CEO. We're very excited to facilitate this seminar workshop, and we prepared hard for this. And there's so many things I wanted to say, but for now, let me just give you that I've spent reading a lot of books. Like the first one is the basic book, like Micro Expressions for Business, written by the resource speakers. It's the best-selling book now at Amazon.com. And after that, I read books on body language that fascinated me so much. I put a copy of them too. The other one is Your Body at Work by David Givens, and the other one is The Non-Verbal Advantage by Carol Goldman. And after that, it seems I wasn't contented with it. How many of you are familiar with Lie to Me? Yes, Lie to Me. Jimmy's an expert on handwriting. Keisha, it was it. And he analyzes personalities through reading handwriting. How many of you? Just to validate, so we're on the same page. Okay, there are 48 episodes of Lie to Me, played by Tim Roth, but the story, that series of story, is actually based on the science of micro-expressions. And we're very happy that they're bringing it to the Philippines, and we'd like to congratulate you for coming over. A warm round of applause for all of us. You will be the first practitioner. When I took the exam, I was surprised, of course, after studying maths, because you will not be certified if you don't pass the exam, right? 2 exams, online test and a practitioner's test. And then you will be given certification by the Center of Body Language. I scored 92 to 97. And I reflected on it. So it's high. Is it a good score?
Yes.
It's a very good score.
Thank you. And I reflected on my experience. I had 2 experiences I could share to you why I'm fascinated with body language in the whole area of microexpression. I worked as a lay missionary for 3 years in Mindanao with the Ligaya ng Panginoon community. And we take time of listening to problems, counseling, and what do you do in the World Vision? Listening to them and kind of deciphering the real emotion. And that's that for 3 years been doing that. So I kind of grew in analyzing people. And my second experience is I work as a legal investigator, legal officer at the Department of Natural Environment Resources, Region 10. And my job is really to prosecute people. First, my own co-personnel, my own colleagues, and interview people, illegal logging, illegal mining, poaching, rape of our forest, our environment. And I grew as I make affidavits, carry my recorder just to draft affidavits afterward and file it in court. I grew also in, how do you say that, spotting detection, lying, or at least persons who do not disclose the truth, right? So I kind of grew like, wow. And you'll be surprised, all of us do. All of us do. And I'm 40 years old. I see the micro expression of this like 45. I still see. Okay.
Higher.
52. Yeah, I'm 52. Why I married late? Because I'm very trying to begin with it. Because I don't know how to propose. I don't know how to court, really. I'm very honest with you. I mastered the art of public speaking, but I shiver when I'm in front of a woman. And this is our love story. Just very quick, yeah. I read a book about body language. I think I found the book somewhere in Singapore. And so when our first date, is Tim here? Sorry to embarrass you, Tim. I don't know how to court, but I could see her body language.
Wow.
I could see her body language and how do I court this girl? But so when I uttered the word, would you like to be my girlfriend? I hate saying I love you, but because the micro expression of I love you that follows is hard. When saying I love you and after that you flash the micro expression, there's no micro expression of I love you. So I just said, Tim, would you like to be my girlfriend? I said, no. So I hate rejection. But this is what she said, not now.
Wow.
You like that? And so I said, okay, thank you. So I have a chance. And I followed it up. So that's how fascinating is body language. And I want all of us to be, communicators. There's a wonderful term that David Givens is using. He's the director of nonverbal studies in Washington. See, he calls it sight reading. Sight reading. I can sight reading you. It's an intelligent observation of anticipating the mood of intention. Right there. And you can use it practically in any situation. Like with Tim, our conflict before would last for 1 week. Because I don't know how to spot the emotion right away. But now, when he flashes the micro expression of, what's that? Yes, so I would tone down my voice. God, this is gonna be war. I would tone down my voice and I'm sorry. And I can see that to my children. I can see that with our helper. After laughing, and she flashes the micro expression of sadness, and I would say, why are you sad? And she said, no, I'm not. After a while, she acknowledges, how did you know? Then I said, I got 97. In micro expression. Patrick and Keisha will tell you how useful it is. It's not all there is to it, but I'm pretty sure that it will add a dimension to your professional knowledge. Mostly, all of us rely on our professional competence, right? Give our card, run our companies, but this one is very essential in really relating with people. Quickly, I want you to turn each other and just smile. Come on. Okay? Keisha can detect if it is a fake smile. Don't you know that there are 18 to 50 types of smiles? 18 to 50 types of smile. We have a court case, and the other lawyer would smile at me and smiles at me like. And then for years he's been doing that. I smile back. I didn't know that it was a smile of contempt. Keisha, so I call it is a contemptuous smile. So you've been smiling at people for all you know, hi. Or either in the right side or the left side. It's a contemptuous smile. And Keisha and Patrick will reveal to you the authentic smile. Are you ready for this course?
Yes.
I hope you will enjoy. I promise you 2 things. You will have fun, especially with Patrick and Keisha. The other one, I promise that you will be able to relate with people in an authentic way. And it will be different this time. Your emotional intelligence increasing the sense that you can just sense what this person is feeling. At the first moment, it flashes that smile. Alright? Are we ready?
Yes.
Alright. Let me give you a short test. I used micro expressions already, but I'll put it in online. I'll see if it works. But it also includes body language. Like, what's this? Turn up.
Well,
Huh?
sounds like I'm doubting you.
I'm doubting
I'm
you?
smarter than you.
Yeah, it's called, you're right. It's an akimbo gesture. How about this?
Parang hinahamon mo ako.
Okay. How about that?
Board.
Bored. You're bored and listening. You're tired of listening. How about that?
Extra board.
Double bored. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, good.
Depends
In
on what
Japan, it is a
country.
yeah, depends on what country. In Japan, it is a different connotation. In the Philippines, it was used during the Estrada trial by Senator Soto. What's that? Okay and money. What's that?
Peace.
Peace?
Peace.
Victory.
Okay, what's that?
Defensive.
Let's listen.
Defensive, close. So, But sometimes you have to take it to context. Acacia will apply it and reveal what is that? Yes.
Sometimes.
What is that?
An extrovert. Are you fencing?
Yes. Patrick is a fencer. But unfortunately, it's not fencing. It's a person cooking. Yeah. Yeah, it's cooking. Pancakes and then transferring.
I thought that you want to put your clothes on the dryer.
No, no. You will learn body language. Yes, there are 80 gestures. God, 80 gestures. Of course, you don't immediately conclude, right? But for me, the best, the sure way of looking at the body language is coupled with micro expressions. So it can never ever escape your attention. And of course, there are limits and there are cautions to this. But it's a wonderful knowledge to acquire as consultants, as professionals, as businessmen. All right? Okay. Where's Emily? Can you help me? I'll just do the preliminary and then I'll introduce.
We're just on time.
Yes. I'll do this very quickly and just provide a theoretical foundation and then I'll ask Patrick and Keisha to. We'll go over this later because the internet connection is not really fast. Yes. Emotions are a necessary part of being a human. How many of you have heard the name Phineas Gage? Okay, one. Bob, two. Phineas Gage. Phineas Gage. This guy was a construction worker and he met an accident while undergoing road construction. A bomb exploded and a thick rod, an instinct, cut inside his left ear and went directly to the other side. And after 1 week, while he was recuperating, when he woke up, he was a changed man. From a person who was nice and polite and very extrovert, he became rude, nasty, and arrogant and ill-mannered. Why the change? Because the frontal lobe of his left brain was damaged. It's responsible for human valuation of emotions, and he became anti-social. That brings us to this topic of how our knowledge as a necessary part of human emotion. How important it is when we relate with people. Can you imagine, I was watching you when you were entering the room, if all of us wear the same clothing and then, we'll shake the same hands together or say hi or behave the same together. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine after our lunch and then our foods are the same? In case I reserve fish for you. But it's not. Our personalities, our emotions are it's like spices in our dish. And it's responsible for our taste, and emotions are very powerful. It allows us to recognize the distinction of our personalities. It also protects us from our enemies. We should know our enemies from our friends. There's an expression, are you sleeping with your enemy? Because you don't know why is Monet laughing? Why is he smiling? And then after all you realize it's a contemptuous smile. So that's how emotions are very important. Bob is a pastor. And as Christians, without emotions, we can never know what's love, what's patience, joy, hard suffering, gentleness, peace. If we don't know emotions, and emotions are, initiated by the micro expressions that you see, right? And that's how powerful emotions are. Benefits of the seminar, I will quickly, you will gain decisive advantage in negotiations. You can detect up to 80% of the 4 to 200 lies you hear every day. That's in UK and Keisha. This is, what's the statistics here in the Philippines?
It's 200 in the US.
200 million, right? It depends on what country, US or... but here our politicians lie every day. No.
That's true.
But the lie can be just they call it white lie on I didn't hear your email, I didn't read your email, or you didn't text. And small lies, white lies. Build a happier and authentic relationship. Keisha will enlighten us more on this. And yes, grow in our emotional intelligence. As we grow in our skill in reading micro expressions, we will definitely grow in our emotional intelligence. What are micro expressions? Come on. But those of you who have read the invitation for the first time, Jim, what was your concept of it?
Micro
What's that?
micro expression is the way your face, move your face to determine your emotion. I believe that you can determine the real thought of a person not through verbal, but through their non-verbal gestures, or facial
You're right.
expression.
Those are muscle movements that last half a second, even shorter, 1/25 a second. Very short. It's so quick that you can miss it. But if you are trained, right? If you are trained, you can detect it because it's visible to the human eye. It's easy, very easy to detect it. You can cut it. It's not proof of lying, of course, once you see that. You don't know that the person is lying. Perhaps he's not disclosing the truth, or not he's telling the truth, but he's not lying. You have to find other indicators to be able to establish that he's lying. It signals the emotions. It signals the beginning of emotions. We know that our emotions vary, but emotions last for a while. They just don't change quickly, right? For example, I have a colleague before when I was teaching at the high school department. He has a bad temper, and he throws umbrellas to his students. One time he threw the umbrella, missed the girl, and hit another person, and he said, "I'm sorry." Like that. Why? Because he was angry. And then he realizes that, he missed the guy. And so he said, "I'm sorry," but he didn't flash the expression of sadness. But what I'm saying is it's very hard to change the emotion right away. Right? It's not easy to change it. Munekir is a psychologist. And so that emotion is real if you cut it. It's a reliable indicator or proof or evidence to detect lies. They will tell you also how to detect lies. There are other factors in detecting lies. My work as legal investigator for 3 years enabled me to see whether a person is telling the truth or not. And I go deeper and deeper until I get to the bottom of the case. Alright, these are some researches. Just like the neuro-linguistic programmer, Vanessa is here. She's a meta coach, associate meta coach, and she invited us, and Tim and I enrolled in it. It is a science, that started since time immemorial. What do I mean by that? Let's start with Charles Darwin. How many of you know Charles Darwin? Of course, a scientist, yes. He wrote a book back in 1872. And the title of the book is Micro Expressions for Business. The title of the book is the expression of human beings and animals. Wow. A long time ago, 1872. And in it, he tried to illustrate that animals and human beings communicate in the same way, and that's the goal, is really to understand each other. So if there is a dog and you don't flash the micro expression of happiness, the dog won't its tail, to even bite you. So that's Charles Darwin. From that, they build on that science. In the 1960s, Haggard and Isaacs discovered it. They call it micro-momentary expressions. It happened while they were analyzing segment by segment, frame by frame, of probably record the videos of psychotherapy sessions between the psychotherapist and the client, and they discovered this micro momentary expressions, now called micro expressions. How many of you are familiar with Paul Ekman? Yes, Paul Ekman, together with Friesen in the 1976. I think he went to, correct me if I'm wrong, New Guinea, and there studied the tribes and discovered that their facial expression, tribes who cannot even understand English or language, communicate the same universal expressions, and he discovered the 7 universal micro-expressions. I will enumerate that later. Paul Ekman. Together also with Friesen, they discovered FACS, F-A-C-S, name for facial coding system, now used by FBI's, NASA, CIA. In San Diego, University of San Diego, and the other one is San Francisco, studies are conducted on this. And the polygraph test, the traditional way of detecting lies, is now being replaced by the fax. So in airports, you would see you just fluster. Not anymore this one, but they will detect see if you're hiding a bomb or smuggling gold or diamonds, anything. Paul Ekman. So it's a wonderful research that you're following. Other scientists who conducted research on the subject are the following: David Matsumoto, Wallace, Friesen. Yes, this is the friend of Paul Ekman. Carl Hermann Herzog. How do you pronounce that? Herzog.
Herzog.
Herzog. Yes. All right. I encourage you to Google it. You'll be fascinated by 50 years of science of micro expressions. In fact, the series Lie to Me, played by British actor Tim Roth, is a very fascinating science. I have watched the 48 episodes, and you would love it. It's useful for sales. I met Eric. Are you for sales?
Yes.
Yes, that's very good. Because Patrick will discuss to you the blink technique. Blink technique, have you heard of that? Yeah? It's good for coaching. Oh, we have meta coaches here. We have Coach Jay, he's a good coach. And yeah, Monette is coaching. It's fascinating. Especially with meta coaching. I'm promoting this, while we were having a session, and here's the person being coached, and they asked us, observers, as newcomers, can you just observe anything? So Monette was observing the body language. I don't know much about body language then. And then you have our coach while he was relating, the most important thing in coaching, I realized, is how to connect. I guess you agree with that. How to connect, how to build rapport. And after a while, I see Jay here was the person who was coached. And after he was talking, I said, brother, I saw the micro expression of fear. And so I kind of course you don't say that, because in meta coaching, you just say, I noticed that your eyebrows were raised up, were drawn together, and then, but it cannot escape. So how do you make use of this knowledge? So they tell us, our coach tell us, okay, you just tell, I saw your 2 eyebrows drawn together and raised up. What does that mean? And then I said, Jay, is it all right? Was it fear? And what did you say, Jay? Did
There
I?
was a point wherein, yes,
Mhm.
because it was a coaching about the difficulty.
Difficulty. And Jay processed the micro expressions of fear. I could detect it. And so it's for coaching, it's a very good knowledge because you can connect right away. You can build rapport. And once you do that, you can easily bring the person into a deeper transformation. Okay, that's coaching. You can also use that for training. Who are trainers? Please raise your hands. All of in this room. Keisha, Patrick, be careful. All of these guys are trainers. Okay? So I'm sure that you have your own experiences. So I've facilitated more than, I couldn't count anymore, like 1,000 trainings. And the challenge of, especially for big conferences, the challenge of the trainer is to read the body language. They're tired, right? They're bored. So you introduce right away an energizer or icebreaker or anything. So trainers, if they don't like what you're saying, you can see that. You can see that. It cannot escape your eye. So, you adjust your arguments. You talk on other things that, say, if you talk politics and you see people cleaning, You talk about pork barrel and you can see it flashes. So you shift right away. That's how useful it is. Management, of course, through the body language of your employees, whether they like you or not, whether they like the culture of the company, or when you're in the elevator, all of them just disappear. Recruitment. How many of you interview people for HR? Yes. This is very useful. You can detect if he is lying or not, if he's telling the truth or not. Are you comfortable with the 50,000 salary? 100,000? What was your last salary? How much was your last salary? Were you happy? Things like that. HR, recruitment, you can easily see that. Leadership. How many of us are in leadership position? All of us. As leaders, I think that you also need to be watchful on the micro expressions of people that you lead. Public speaking. Is Raju around? He's a public speaker. I learned that Raju, is he around? Oh, it's not. I learned that he enrolled, but so he's not here. Public speaking. He's a public speaker. Negotiations. How many of you are into negotiations? Yes. How will I explain this? In playing chess, if your moves is advanced like 2 or 4, you surely win the game. I'm saying that in negotiation, given things are equal, you have a good advantage if you know micro expression. So in negotiations, this is very useful. I said it's not all there is to it. You need to read body language, but it is very useful. All face-to-face conversations. All face-to-face, including your children. I have 3 children. I told you I'm married late, so 5, 3 years old, 2 years old, and 3 months. My God. I just realized that they're very good in reading micro expressions. The research of Keisha and Patrick affirmed that 10% higher than us. Is that right? And while I was studying micro expression, I posted all the 26 variations. And I was reading. My son, 2-year-old son, came up to me, Daddy, he's mad. So your picture. He's mad. In Visayan, they call it suko. I was surprised that they could read emotions. And that's why they cry if you don't smile. So I have a 3-month-old baby. I practice Bob the 26 variation. After that, the baby cries. What are you doing? I discovered that, oh my God, the children are very intelligent. In reading. And that's why they manipulate. Because they could read faces of their parents. You say no to them, they know. All face-to-face conversations. content of this training, let me just, okay, I'll give you an overview of the 7 micro expressions, how to spot subtle micro expression, how to detect lies, cautions or things to consider in reading micro expressions. Asian Patrick will explain this. Distinguish micro expressions from conversational signs. Does it mean that Jimmy, if a girl, blinks at you, that do you consider that the girl likes you? Like that? No?
Looks like
Those are conversational signals. Be careful. Of course, apply the body language congruency model. We'll discuss that. Apply the Q4 technique and the blink technique. All right. And if we have time, we'll start from 9. We run it a bit late, like 15 minutes, but we will try to finish it at 5 o'clock. Methodology, it's a team teaching. Don't be surprised that Patrick and Keisha will button, but most of the time, I would love that you would, take over, and I will just decide. And if you want to say something very important, and you're afraid you don't know how to apply the Q4 technique, feel free to stand up, and let's have a great discussion. So that's the methodology. Limits of this training, is that? One half of this, only 1/2 seconds of expression in parts of the face. Some expressions are excluded, like, let me think, pain. Pain is not discussed here. According to Keisha, pain is not really strictly a micro expression. So we don't discuss that here. Pride. What else? How do you know lust? How do you know a person is lustful? There are many things, pride, How do you notice that? It's excluded here. What we're talking here, the 7 universal micro expressions. Emotions are categorized in families. Like pain, I think, falls into the family of sadness. And finally, deliberate emotions are asymmetrical. It means that it's not proportional. It's not balanced. So it's easy to detect it. In fact, if I tell you, can you flash the micro expression of sadness, Jen? It's hard, no? It's hard because it's not asymmetrical. Natural. That's what it means. Deliberate emotions and that brings us to the fact that you cannot fake it. It's involuntary, right? It's involuntary. The muscles move whether you like it or not. And that's important. It is not cultural. It is truth to all. It's universal. You find that in Korean and Japanese. Though they're very subtle, I want you to know that Keisha and Patrick just arrived from Japan. They run on micro expressions and they will tell you interesting stories about Japanese, plus the micro expression of disgust, but it's still there. So they're all over the world. I repeat, it's not just cultural, but biological. It's true to all people. It's not just local, but universal. We'll focus on subtle expressions, the part of the face which is the beginning of emotion. I've already mentioned this. Subtle experience of emotion, strong emotion, but deliberately concealed. That is why, in the point of anger, can you still smile?
Oh, yeah.
You can.
Of course.
You can, of course. In the point of sadness, can you still smile?
Yes.
Yes. Deliberately concealed. Okay. Before I'll turn this microphone over to them, let me introduce them quickly. A couple, our resource speakers, they are the world's experts in body language from the Center of Body Language in Belgium. Patrick is a trainer, a coach, and he coaches top sales and leaders, even politicians. He's also the author of the book Micro Expressions for Business, best-selling book in Amazon.com. Keisha also is the author of Micro Expressions for Business. She has 3 master's degrees, psychology, sociology, and law. She has a doctorate
I can sue
in
you.
management, micro expressions. She has a doctorate, supervised the theory. Actually, she traveled to China, India, just to learn this stuff. And both are authors, and we're very happy. And we're very happy that you brought micro expressions in the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Patrick and Keisha.